Tonight, Puerto Rico remains largely without electricity and safe drinking water. Facts that made the president's threats this morning to pull aid from the island all the more alarming, tweeting, quote, Puerto Rico survived the hurricanes, now a financial crisis looms. Largely of their own making, says Cheryl Atkinson. A total lack of accountability, say the governor. Electric and all infrastructure was disaster before hurricanes. Congress to decide how much to spend. We cannot keep FEMA, the military, and the first responders who have been amazing under the most difficult circumstances in Puerto Rico forever. End tweet. San Juan's mayor fired back in a statement, quote, tweet away your hate to mask your administration's mishandling of this humanitarian crisis. While you are amusing yourself throwing paper towels at us, your compatriots and the world are sending love and help our way. Condemn us to a slow death of non-drinkable water, lack of food, lack of medicine, while you keep others eager to help from reaching us. Joining our conversation, Jeremy Bash, former chief of staff at both the CIA and the Pentagon, also an MSNBC national security analyst. Rick Stengel, former undersecretary of state. Eli Stokols is back, along with Phil Rucker, who has a new piece in the Washington Post tonight. Quote, Trump threat to abandon Puerto Rico recovery sparks a backlash. Isn't that the case? Phil, start us off tonight with this day, another surreal day of the president trash talking an island decimated from a natural disaster.
Yeah, the day started pretty early in the morning with those tweets from President Trump, and that was a remarkable statement from a U.S. president to threaten to effectively abandon the recovery efforts. And within a few short hours, there was strong backlash from Puerto Rico, including from the governor of the territory, who had been working very closely with President Trump on this recovery over the last few weeks. He spoke out, and we saw Trump administration officials try to backpedal what the president was saying. They were saying, look, you know, the U.S. government is committed to the full recovery effort in Puerto Rico as long as they need it. We just think that eventually you want to pull back and let the territory and the locals take over the rebuilding process from there. But we have to remember, after Katrina in 2005, the federal recovery effort took many months, even years in some cases, down there. This is a long period of time, and the president's growing impatient after only 3 weeks.
Jeremy Bash, correct me if I'm wrong, but the United States military has a long history and a lot of skill and acumen at dealing with humanitarian crises in this country and others. Is that not right?
That's right. And one of the things that the logistical experts in the United States Department of Defense can do with unparalleled expertise is really rebuild a power grid. And so it astonishes many people who are looking at the situation as to why nearly a month after the storm, some 80% of Puerto Ricans are still without power. I mean, I think it's important to note, Nicole, that Puerto Ricans are Americans. They pay taxes. They serve in our military.
Can I stop you? What? I agree with you, but let's acknowledge why we have to acknowledge that. I mean, I think it is often whispered, but not always acknowledged out loud, that there was a serious question about whether or not the president knew that. And I think the fact that we all feel the need to remind everyone that they're Americans is part of the travesty of this slow motion calamity, isn't it?
I can't tell you whether he knew it or not, but he's certainly acting as if they are some sort of other, as if they are foreign, as if it's an aid and development effort of a foreign country. No, this is America's infrastructure that he's denigrating. When he says it's their economy that's in shambles, that is America's economy that is really not doing right by the Americans in Puerto Rico.
Eli, can you speak to what Jeremy, I think, just put his finger on, this idea of others, people who are other than him, other than his base, other than his supporters, other than his sycophants? They're not worthy of support from the federal government, from the agencies that help people in crises?
Well, the nationalism that defined Donald Trump's campaign and his presidency was an ethnocentric nationalism. It was white identity politics, and you can understand why Puerto Rico doesn't necessarily fit into his idea of America, whether he knows that it's part of the country or not. And on that visit that the president made down there, it was just so surreal and so obvious, his inability to really empathize with these people and to comprehend or even accept and face the gravity and the extremity of the tragic circumstances down there. He didn't want to see those images of destruction. He went into a room and threw paper towels to people and complimented Puerto Rico that only 16 people died. There was no understanding that the death toll was likely to rise, as it has, and there was basically a message saying, good job, you got through it, move on. His tweet this morning, what did it say? The first one, Puerto Rico survived. They are still dealing with the after effects of this, and you can see from this president that he just really wants to turn the page, move on, and say, okay, you're fine. Stop taking all of our resources. It's just stunning, the lack of empathy when we're used to presidents pretty much up till now, with no exceptions in modern history, presidents who will come out and after something like this say something like, you're in our thoughts, you'll have all our resources, we'll be there, whatever you need. It's the exact opposite message from this president, and it's stunning.
Rick Stengel, we also have, I think, examples in each of the last three presidencies. In President Obama's administration, the earthquake in Haiti, we marshaled everything that Jeremy and Eli are both talking about, the compassion of the American people, the expertise of the U.S. military, the assets of the State Department, USAID, and we helped Haiti. Under George W. Bush's administration, the tsunami was one of the most devastating natural disasters that I recall, and the White House marshaled the two former presidents, President Clinton and Bush 41, to raise private sector funds, but we marshaled all the same kinds of assets that Jeremy and Eli are both talking about. Is this the kind of example of where this president's lack of knowledge about history, about America's role in the world? And there was something that got less attention, but Bob Corker has now on two occasions talked about how the president seemingly doesn't understand the office he holds. Is that what we're seeing in his response to Puerto Rico?
Well, what we're seeing in terms of what America First is not comprehending what America represented to the world, the Marshall Plan, where we not only weren't helping, American states, we were helping our former enemies. This is what makes us different. This is what makes is what makes us exceptional. He can't even scrounge up the energy to help, a part of America. And the clear depiction of Puerto Ricans as second-class citizens, either because of their ethnicity, because maybe they can't vote in federal elections, but as Jeremy says, they pay taxes. It's really something that's very disturbing, and it speaks to his lack of experience, his lack of knowledge, and his lack of empathy. I've never seen a president blame the victim before, as he did in Puerto Rico. The president usually consoles people, tries to inspire them. He's absolutely incapable of that.
Eli, real quickly back to you. What does it say about the White House chief of staff and the people around the president that no one's been able to rein in all the things that everyone's talking about? His displays of viewing Puerto Rico as other, his flagrant displays of a lack of empathy, and this penchant to trash talk local officials on Twitter.
John Kelly said something, the thing I think was most important about the briefing, the most telling of his comments today was when he said, don't judge me, talking to the press in the room, don't judge me based on what you think I should be doing. There are all those reports about, oh, John Kelly's going to get the president to stop tweeting. What he was basically saying today is that this is a 71-year-old man. He is who he is, and he's not going to change. You see a person incapable of empathy, that's who he is. I can't change that. No chief of staff can change that. You see a guy who wants to impulsively and recklessly tweet, even without fully understanding the things he's tweeting about. I can't change that. Probably no chief of staff can change that. That's what he was saying today, and that was probably, to me, the truest sentence that John Kelly was speaking when he said, don't judge me on what you think I should be capable of with this president.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.